Are we ready back there? Somebody give me a thumbs up, a head bob or something? All right. It's amazing how I just stood up here. I didn't say a word. And everybody got quiet, got in your seats. So obedient. This is just perfect. It reminds me, no, it doesn't. I was going to say it reminds me of my days in the classroom, but it didn't happen that way. Well, good evening. My name is Ophelia Wellington, and I'm the founding director of Freetown Village Living History Museum. Our mission is to educate the public about African American history and culture. We do that primarily through programming, the performing arts, and events. Since 1982, we have traversed Indiana, visiting 80 of our 92 Indiana counties and performing in all of the Midwestern states, at least one of our programs. Tonight, we're continuing in our series of conversations in Indiana history. And we have some distinguished educators, researchers, professors, and historians who have agreed to share their years of research and knowledge with us to help us to better understand and learn about the contributions, the stories of those who have come before us and those who are still with us. Go to our webpage at freetownvillage.org to see about the other programs in this series and other Freetown Village programs and events, including our fabulous summer day camp, of which I was in this morning. We did a nice field trip. We actually went to the Indian Stadium and had a lot of behind the scenes tour through the dugout, walk out onto the field. And the campers had such a wonderful time running the bases in all that heat. But they can always say they ran the bases at the Indians, what is it called? Victory Field. So our campers, we are in week 2 of our 7-week camp. They learned about history and culture and manners, nutrition, team building, and other enrichment activities. I want to thank our sponsors for their support. The Indiana Black Heritage Preservation Programs here at Indiana Landmarks, the Indiana Humanities, Allen Whitehill Clues Charitable Foundation, the India Arts Council, the Indiana Arts Commission, and our supporters at IUI Africana Studies Department, the Joseph Taylor branch of ASALA, and that's the Association for the Study of African American Life and History. And if you would like to support our 40+ years of educating the public with Freetown Village and support the opportunities to reach the next 1 million participants, go to our webpage at freetownvillage.org to make a contribution. Support from individuals is just as important as support from foundations. We have several presenters here tonight. You have a playbill in your chair. They are really showing out tonight. And I'm looking forward to this. But after the presentation, we'll entertain questions from our audiences here. And for those of you who are online, please write your questions in the chat and they will respond to as many questions as the time allows. Also, after the presentation, there will be a QR code that will appear on the screen for a short evaluation. And for those of you who are online, there will be a QR code sent to you. Just fill it out. It's asking a few simple questions. Help us out. Just answer the questions to the best of your ability. You know, it really helps to document what we do. And it also helps our sponsors to see what our audience think about all of our hard work in putting all these things together. So I think I've said all I need to say. Now it's time for me to introduce the original presenters. I say original because there were two. And now it's a crowd of people up here. And I'm so looking forward to this. Susan Hyatt was born and raised in Boston, Massachusetts. And her research focuses on examining urban neighborhoods as cultural settings and on community-based activism in both the United States and United Kingdom. She completed her PhD at the University of Massachusetts in Amherst in 1996, after having worked as a community organizer in Chicago for 8 years. Her experience working in Chicago's Southside neighborhoods has shaped her career as an anthropologist. She is committed to involving her students in collaborative community research with residents of Indianapolis neighborhoods. In December 2023, she retired from IU Indianapolis after 19 years on the faculty there. It's been the high point of her career to help document the story of the near South Side in the project, The Neighborhood of Saturdays. Now, I want to tell you a story. When we did a lot of work with IU, different departments and so forth, I saw Susan Hyatt's name on a whole bunch of stuff. We communicated, we emailed, we may even talk on the phone. I never saw her. So a few years ago, another colleague of ours retired, and there was an event, and we both ended up there. And you had the name tags on, but Susan, you're Susan Hyatt. So it was like, well, we should have been sharing baby pictures all these years. We've known each other, but we've never really talked. So it's really good to really, and then after that, how many times have we run into each other at events? So I'm wondering, were we at the same events all these other times, but we didn't know who we were? So we keep running into each other. Also, our second presenter, Beverle Miller Kane, was born and raised on the south side of Indianapolis. Her parents, Joseph and Beatrice R. Miller, known as Daddy Jack, and Ms. P. Where is Ms. P? Who wanted me to make sure I knew who she was, right back there with the white hat on. All right. We're also born and raised on the south side. That they instilled in their 9 children a love for family, community, and service. Now, Beverle attended Indianapolis public schools, including Wood high school on the south side. Any Southsiders in here? Okay, all right. Now, following her rewarding career as an airline employee, she retired, having had the opportunity to travel the world. She remains active in her community as a precinct committee person and as a Denny community navigator for the Southside U.S. Colored Troop Coalition. She is passionate about preserving the history, culture, and stories of the Southside neighborhoods while helping build connections for future generations. Beverle Kane, Susan Hyatt, we're looking forward to your presentation.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that nice introduction, Miss Ophelia. And I'm glad we have finally met face to face. And I'm glad to know your daughter also, Mariam. And I want to thank everyone who's come out tonight in this very unpleasant heat. And thank all the people who have joined us online. This series on Black history in Indianapolis has just been outstanding. And Beverle and I are very honored to be a part of it. I think we've attended almost every one of the presentations. I want to thank Mariam Umar and the other staff from Freetown Village for helping us with logistics, and also to Eunice Trotter for her work on Black heritage in Indianapolis, and for making this beautiful, this beautiful space available for these presentations. I started working on documenting the history of the South Side about 18 years ago. I can't believe it. Where did the time go? In 2008, I attended my first Saturday in August picnic, and you'll hear a lot about that in a minute. Um, it's been such a great experience to work with Beverle and other members of the Southside community, but I must acknowledge that I first came in contact with the Southside through one of Beverly's sisters, Mrs. Jackie Bellamy. I ran into her at a community meeting, and people who know me know that I'm very gregarious and it's dangerous to sit next to me anywhere if you don't want to chat. And so Jackie had the good fortune or misfortune, however we look at it, to sit next to me. It was definitely my good fortune. And I began chatting with her. And she told me this story about a neighborhood that had been split and displaced by the building of I-70. But the neighborhood still comes together every year on the first Saturday in August. And so my ears immediately perked up because I thought this will be a great project for my students to work on about the history of this neighborhood, why people feel so strongly about it, and why they continue to come together. So you'll hear a little bit about that in just a minute. So you may wonder why Beverle and I brought such a big entourage with us. And it is because these are students who have worked on the Neighborhood of Saturdays project. And if you don't know the origin of the name, you'll hear about it in a minute. They were students who contributed to the writing of this book. I wish we had copies for everybody, but unfortunately it's out of print, but hopefully the second edition will be here soon. On the playbill, and the fact that we called it a playbill tells you that we have high aspirations. Broadway, here we come. We did a play based on the oral histories that these students had collected from neighborhood elders back in 2011. So we were just reminiscing about how that was 15 years ago. So, I mean, the students know that if they take a class with me, they never get rid of me. I hang on to the good ones and keep them involved. So I think we're gonna move on with the program. And the first thing we're gonna do is show a very short video that was done by WTHR for Black History Month about the Old South Side. And Beverle and I both feel that it really, we have a lot of complaints about the media, all of us, and with good reason. But we feel that this story really captured the essence of the South Side. So it's about 4 minutes long, and then I'll come back and I will introduce the cast of the Neighborhood of Saturdays players. So Kyle, if you want to go ahead and hit the video.
South of Monument Circle, beyond the place's most postcards show, lies a part of Indianapolis with a history many Hoosiers have never heard.
It is a little bit of a hidden history of Indianapolis, a little bit of an invisible history.
Its streets carry stories largely forgotten.
If you drive around the perimeter today, you could see the remnants of what used to be.
This is it, huh?
Yeah, this is the family home.
But Beverle Kahn has worked her entire life to make sure we remember.
Our story is something we want people to know about.
Beverle grew up here in the neighborhood known as the Old South Side. So did her parents. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, this was more than just a neighborhood. It was a foundation. For Black families migrating from the South after the Civil War, it became a place of opportunity.
I think this was a community that really was very self-sufficient in many ways.
Professor Susan Hyatt has studied its history for years. She says the Black community flourished here with businesses, social clubs, and churches. But there's something else that made this place even more unique.
What's very distinctive about this neighborhood is at a time when
Indianapolis was still, very much a Jim Crow city. There were a lot of very integrated spaces in this neighborhood.
The old South Side was known as the Ellis Island of Indiana.
There was a Greek community down here too. There were Italians, and further south you get into the German community.
Some of the remnants still here today.
Shapiro's is kind of the last vestige of what was a very vibrant Jewish shopping district.
They say this really was a place where you could lean on each other for support. If you needed help, you never had to go very far. You just went next door. Despite its strength, though, the old South Side was not immune to the forces that would eventually reshape a lot of minority neighborhoods across America.
The interstate, caused so much damage in so many neighborhoods all over the country.
In the 60s and 70s, interstate highways cut through communities. Homes were demolished, families pushed out.
All of our friends and families and cousins whose homes and stuff are now under the interstate.
On-ramps, off-ramps, and express lanes dissected the neighborhood.
You would come home and you would see these big letters on someone's home, which meant that property was going to be demolished and torn down, and nobody was ever coming back to that property. Your friends were not ever coming back. So, you kind of think there are cousins, there are friends, there are relatives, and that was very traumatic.
In later years, urban renewal would continue to spread, eventually including construction of Lucas Oil Stadium. Today, traces remain of what was, in the foundations of old houses, in churches still standing, and in the memories of those who refuse to let the past disappear.
We're resilient.
Every first Saturday in August, Beverle, her family, and neighbors, past and present, all gather at Babe Denny Park.
For 50 years, which is what I have on here, is that we come back to that little park and you bring your family and you reminisce.
Because what could never be destroyed here was the legacy that lives on.
The Neighborhood Association is still very active in preserving their history and improving what's still there. A renovation project is underway right now at Babe Denny Park.
I'm the edema building.
All right, thank you, Kyle. Well, even though I'm horrendously unphotogenic, I think that was a really good story and captured the spirit of the neighborhood. And if you look carefully, these students, 3 of them appear in the video because they're pictures that they took from the book. Anyway, if you want to know where all the historical pictures are and how you can look at them, we do have a website. I have the address on our little playbill, but it's hard to retype those long addresses. There's also a link where you could download a free copy of the book until we get it reprinted. So if you want to just email me, I can send you those links and then you can just click on them. So, all right, I want to introduce our cast of the Neighborhood of Saturday's players. On my far left is Mercedes Cannon. Next to her is Kirsten Lewis. In the middle, I think is somebody known to many of you, Joseph Tucker Edmonds from our Africana Studies program. Next to him is Patricia Jordan Turley, also now from the Africana Studies program. And then at the end is Megan Meadows. And Megan was a more recent recruit. In 2022, my class did a restudy of the South Side, and she was in that 2022 group. So she wasn't part of the original team, but she contributed to our restudy of the neighborhood as it is today. So they are going to read quotes from oral history interviews that students, including those 3, collected in 2011. And that will hopefully give you a flavor and a picture of what it was like to grow up in the neighborhood of Saturdays. So I'm going to turn it over to you guys.
All right. Welcome to our recreation of a time and a place, and to our story, a tale of 2 groups of people who during one of the most difficult periods in Indianapolis history lived side by side, regularly crossing lines of race and religion in that era were not often breached. In the early decades of the 20th century, Jewish immigrants from Europe and African Americans coming up from the South all settled on the near South Side. Both groups were seeking, sorry.
All right, I think we're almost back. I think I'm hitting the wrong button. All right, now we can get started. I'm sorry, you don't need to start over, but wait a minute. Why is it going down to that part? That's the end. I don't understand why this is happening.
It's down to advance.
I know, but I am going down. But now I have to get back because this is the last slides. Yeah, the first one. Let's just go back to the beginning. Can you go back to the beginning? All right, that's good. Yeah, but see, it's going to that one.
Is it supposed to be slide 5?
It's skipping to the end for some reason.
It's upside down.
Is there no slide 5?
Oh, am I holding this upside down? Oh, that would.
There you
Okay, sorry. All right, excellent, thank you. It's good when problems can be so simply solved. All right, let's get back into it.
In the early decades of the 20th century, Jewish immigrants from Europe and African Americans coming up from the South all settled on the near South Side. Both groups were seeking an escape from the discrimination that had held them back in their respective old countries and were hoping for new opportunities for their children. Those children, born in Indianapolis between the 1910s and the 1940s, grew up in a 6-block area where they went to school together up until the 8th grade, played together on the blocks and in the local playgrounds, and learned to appreciate one another's customs and traditions. They created a community characterized by peaceful relations and by shared bonds of friendship and fellowship. As Beverle Kane put it, we all just did life together. After World War II, the Jewish boys who came back from overseas were able to access the benefits of the GI Bill. They went to college, married, and bought homes on the north side of the city using low-interest VA mortgages. Of course, African-American veterans should have been eligible for those same benefits, but they were barred from accessing them by discriminatory practices at the state and local levels. Nonetheless, many of them also became successful professionals and moved to other parts of the city. And then, in the early 1970s, came the catastrophe that tore the neighborhood apart, displacing homes and businesses, the construction of Interstate 70. Many of the former Southsiders' most treasured landmarks, including their homes, which now lie under the highway, as they put it. We launched our project in 2010 so we could share the previously untold story of this neighborhood and could reflect on the lessons it holds for all of us. And it started when we heard about the picnic.
My name is Miss Pete. That's what everyone calls me. Now, I want to tell you about the picnic. In the early 1970s, the interstate just came right across the community, and what that did, it divided our neighborhood. When the interstate came through, it separated us from all our neighbors and friends. A lot of our friends had to leave. They were displaced and moved to other parts of town. And then our high school closed. So the Southside Men Club started the Southside Picnic Committee and its neighborhood reunion. If anyone ever asks you when the picnic is, just tell them it's the first Saturday in August, rain or shine, and everyone is welcome. As long as the park is there, we'll be having the picnic. Now, tell me, when is the picnic?
The first Saturday in August.
And who's welcomed?
Everyone.
The picnic is held in a pocket park that is now in the shadow of Lucas Oil Stadium. It was originally known as Michael Street Park. In 1977, the Southside Men's Fellowship Club sent a letter to the editor of the Indianapolis Recorder suggesting that the park be renamed in honor of Mr. Babe Denny, a lifelong Southsider and Parks Department employee. In 1947, the Parks Department appointed Mr. Edward Babe Denny to be an investigator and fee collector with police powers, who performed his duties in plain clothes and traveled regularly to all the city's parks on a motorcycle. Mr. Denny passed away in 1971. As the letter from the Southside Men's Fellowship Club stated, we are requesting that the name of the McCall Street Park be changed to that of Babe Denny Park to honor one of our late Southside residents, Edward Babe Denny, who spent many, many years within the Parks Department. We got the title of our project, The Neighborhood of Saturdays, from the picnic, which is always held on the first Saturday in August. The second Saturday reference honors the Jewish celebration of the Sabbath on Saturday. Both Saturdays and Sundays were busy days in the neighborhood.
I came out of Bethesda Baptist Church. The people on Illinois went to South Calvary and the Concord Community Center. The people in my area went to Bethesda and Meyer Chapel. We are all still connected. My grandmother, she came out of Bethesda. My great-grandmother came out of Bethesda. My great-uncle became a minister at Bethesda. Once again, it was another chain to the link that was a common bond for all of us.
I went to South Calvary Baptist Church because my mother went to South Calvary. My aunt went to South Calvary. Her children went to South Calvary, and so on. Those two churches were where the majority of Black people on the South Side went to church.
Well, there was a Saturday in the neighborhood and Sunday, but then eventually Monday morning would come around, and that meant only one thing.
There were 3 primary schools on the South Side, School 6, School 12, School 22, and at that time, all of them were integrated. I went to School 22, which used to be where the Concord Center is now. I bought a brick from the school when it was torn down, so I own part of that. The memory is still with me.
Our neighborhood was so different from how it is today. It was completely mixed, but you never knew you were any different from anyone else because we all played together and we all went to school together. We had some wonderful teachers in School 12 who really cared and were concerned about the children.
Public School 22. It's no longer standing. In 6th grade, 7th, and 8th, I was on the traffic force. You had to be in the 6th grade to get on the traffic force. I was a patrolman, and in 7th grade, I was lieutenant. In 8th grade, I was captain. One day when I was captain, a couple of police officers came to school to check on us. That it was towards the end of school, so I got to ride with them. That was a big deal, and they took me home. Well, can you imagine showing up in a police car? What would your mother think? I really scared her. She thought I was in trouble.
School 22 was at the corner of Kansas and Illinois, and you walked to a school that was 6 blocks away, and then you came home for lunch. You left school at 11:45, and you had to be back by 1 o'clock. So you had to come home, eat, and then leave. My mother would have lunch ready for me, usually a bowl of soup. Walked in the rain, walked in the snow, and thought nothing of it. We had to go.
I never went to a Black school. I went to a mixed school. I didn't realize until I got older that I could not do certain things, because we had gym together. We did everything together in the park. We played together, and it was never an all-Black neighborhood. It was a mixed neighborhood.
In 1929, however, the safe and integrated world that the Southside children knew and loved changed drastically when the Ku Klux Klan, who then controlled the city government, mandated that all African-American kids throughout the city attend high school at the newly built Crispus Attucks High School. The Southside primary schools, number 6, 12, and 22, remain integrated, but the high schools were now segregated. In 1949, when the Indiana Supreme Court ruled that school segregation was unconstitutional, many African American Southsiders made their way back to the original Manual High School because it was the only vocational high school in the city. The old Manual High School, which was then located across from Shapiro's, was renamed the Harry E. Wood Vocational Training School in 1953, and the school called Manual High School moved further south to the 2400 block of Madison, where it remains today. Wood High School was closed in 1978. Between 1949 and 1978, Manual High School and then Wood were also integrated schools. While these experiences varied from generation to generation, most Southside residents agreed that attending integrated schools played an important role in shaping their attitudes about race and bred in them an appreciation for diversity.
I loved Wood High School. It was great. It was one of the schools in Indianapolis where they offered everything from gifted classes to mechanical classes such as auto body, dry cleaning, TV, and that type of thing. And they also had classes for students who are mentally challenged. So you name it, we had it, even in that day.
I knew what I was going to be. I knew I didn't want to go to college, and if there was any money at all, my dad was going to send my brothers first. Of course, I didn't care because I did not want to go to college. I knew I was going to be a secretary, and there was nothing I could have learned elsewhere that I didn't learn in Manual. It was at Manual Training High School that taught me everything. You didn't need a college where whatever you needed, Manual would teach you. So I was very, very good in typing and very, very good at shorthand. And they got me a job after school. I didn't ask for anything. They did everything for me.
We also went back in time to find out how these former neighbors all got to the South Side in the first place. As Robert Moore once put it, we African Americans and the Jews were all fleeing oppression, and we found one another on the South Side. In the 6-block area that was our neighborhood, we didn't know anything about racism or anti-Semitism.
We figure that in the 19 teens and 20s, the African-American community started to settle in this area. I know a few folks who were born here in 1932 and 1934, but most of them had come up from the South. Some people told us that they ended up on the South Side because their parents got off the train at Union Station and just stayed in the community.
And you have to recognize the social dynamics of what was taking place. You're talking about migration from the South. And usually the anchors of this community, whether they were Jewish or Black, were first-generation migrants. And when they came here, obviously, they didn't have great skills or a great education. So they were the ones who came here and got manual jobs and provided for their families. And then when their families became more educated, they started to move out. A lot of people worked in slaughterhouses like Kane and Company, which was located on Maryland Street along White River. Many of the Jewish immigrants worked at Kane Tailoring. They would take the streetcar up to Capitol and St. Clair, where the factories were located. The building is still there today.
My dad was originally headed to Chicago. He had 6 kids and a wife who was pregnant. My uncle convinced him that he would have a better chance if he settled here rather than go to college. So my dad said, okay, I'll give it a chance.
We migrated up from the South. There was racial prejudice there, so my big family was tempted to get away from the environment that we were in. We couldn't afford to come all at once, so little by little we came. I remember that my sister's husband had some people from Chicago who had moved to Indianapolis, and I think that's what got them here. I'm quite sure of that.
What happened was that our parents and grandparents were born and raised in the South. In the 30s, there was what was called the Great Migration. The South was primarily agricultural. Between 1934 and 1937, the Mississippi River in that area flooded, and as a result, it wiped out a lot of the farmland. At the same time, there was the Great Depression. So something like 2 to 3 million African Americans left the South to come to the North seeking jobs in the industrialized cities.
After World War II, the American government enacted several pieces of legislation that drew people from the urban core out to the suburbs. Thus, the federal highway system was born. The construction of I-70 happened with very little warning to local residents. As Robert and Anderson Murph, two former Southside residents, responded when they were asked about Interstate 70, they said there was no warning of that highway coming through. All they did was, when the time came around for them to start, they said, "This is what we're going to do, and you've got to go." Similarly, when asked about notices going up about the planned highway, Ms. Pete recalled,
Well, let me say this much. A lot of times, the majority of people couldn't read and write. And if you can't read and write, you know what you signing. There was nothing different. If it wasn't affecting you, you really didn't know about it. We were down here on the other end, so it wasn't affecting us directly. We found out through neighbors. I had two aunties who lived up there. We heard by word of mouth.
It was pretty sad when the highway came through. Your best friend started moving away. I used to come out of that school and see the people putting numbers on the houses. That meant that they were going to tear that house down, even though your friend still lived there. They would tell you that you only had so much time to move. The highway was a sad time because it separated us. I can understand progress, but it kind of hurts because as I drive through different neighborhoods, I still see these other neighborhoods that are still there, like Garfield Park. And I think, man, why did they choose my neighborhood?
Before the construction of I-70, you could see McCarty Street in the middle of Kenwood Street. Capitol Street came straight through. That was my main drag as a teeny bopper. I could go straight down Capitol and turn right into my street. None of that exists now. So there are a lot of things that have changed.
Midway Alley ran between the 800 and 900 block of Capitol Avenue between Church and Charles Street. I grew up on the 1100 block of South Capitol. So we didn't go beyond Midway Alley until we got to middle school. A lot of romances got started there and almost some fights. Everybody used it and everyone knew it was there. It was a popular meeting place and a pathway that connected different parts of the neighborhood.
When we heard about the highway coming through, we had a march. People didn't want this to happen. We all signed petitions, but I don't think it ever made a difference. If they had built houses somewhere else when they tore all that down, then the neighborhood would still be as good as it was, but they didn't.
We sent the petition in. We signed, and nothing happened. It was, get out our way. And that was the end of that. We had a house that was just decorated. Our store we had all way down to the alley on Ray Street. We own half the block there.
It's amazing how fast a neighborhood deteriorates. The word gets that they're selling the property or highways coming through there. Most people, one thing, they see dollar signs. They think they're going to get rich. Well, most of them didn't. Like your grandfather and your grandmother, they still think they should have gotten more for their property.
Oh, we lived on Union Street, up where the highway went in, and we were only renting the house at the time. And when we heard about I-70 coming in, everybody started selling their properties to the state. My dad found a house, which was only 3 or 4 blocks away, and he bought that house. So then we moved into it, but I-70, it just split the neighborhood. I mean it. A lot of people had to move because it just tore out so many houses. It tore out businesses. It was not the close-knit neighborhood we once was.
It split the neighborhood. It was a very mixed neighborhood before, mainly blacks and Jewish people, but it split the neighborhood. The north side of the old neighborhood is almost gone now. Those who could afford to move left the neighborhood, but the poor ones didn't have much choice but to stay. Before the interstate, it was a real good neighborhood.
When you think about the Southside, think about it as a community. That really was a community. We had an influx of everybody in our community, not just Black and Jewish people. We had everyone, and we had a community. We didn't look at color. We never did that. We weren't brought up to think of ourselves by those means. We never met strangers. We met people.
That's just the way it was. It was a culturally mixed community, and we never had any kind of racial disturbance. We were just all combined together. When the Jewish community started migrating north, gradually the businesses began to close, though, of course, Shapiro's is still there, and Passo's Drugs also stayed for quite a while. Passo's Drug Store was never segregated. They had a counter. They had a fountain where you'd sit and get a cherry soda and stuff like that.
There was a little corner store called Terry's, owned by a Jewish family, and it was further south at Capitol and Ray Street. Mr. Albert Hazen gave credit to their customers, both Black and Jewish. You know, they'd get a little book out. Mama would tell me, get a pound of bologna, and they'd write it down at the store, and then my dad would pay them back on the weekends.
There were Black-owned businesses in the community too. Miss Brenda Johnson told us her family story. Before long, my uncle and my Aunt May got a break from a Jewish tavern owner by the name of Mel Bracken. Mr. Bracken's tavern was located on the same block as Shapiro's on the South of Meridian. Mr. Bracken sold my uncle and aunt the building and the liquor license, and so he began his second business venture with B&M Tavern. If I'm not mistaken, Uncle was the first Black man who owned a business on the well-known South Meridian commercial strip.
It was a self-nurturing community within itself. So that's an important part to include in you guys' report, because otherwise our story would not be told correctly.
Whenever anything ever happened to anyone on the South Side, it affected all of us, you know, funerals, marriages, graduation, whatever happened, it was just like it happened to a member of your family on the South Side. The picnic still plays a great role in bringing people together. People who left the neighborhood when they were younger, when they first heard about the picnic, they would come down to see some of their old friends, see who was still around. It was great, and it's been great ever since.
And so, our tale has brought us full circle, back to the picnic, which celebrated its 50th anniversary this past August. The City Council actually passed a resolution recognizing the historical significance of the picnic and honoring this important South Side tradition. Beverle Miller Khan is going to read the resolution for us.
The Council, City of Indianapolis, Marion County. City County Council Special Resolution number 18, 2025. A special resolution recognizing the 50th annual Southside Reunion Picnic. Whereas the annual Southside Reunion Picnic held on August the 2nd, 2025 has been celebrated each year in Babe Denny Park for the past 50 years. 50. Right. I lost my place. In Miss Pete's voice, I'm gonna say it now. Okay. This resolution honors and commemorates the history, affectionately known as the first Saturday in August, right? And this cherished tradition unites generations of the Babe Denny neighborhood, preserving bonds of friendship
and families that endured even after Interstate 70 displaced the close-knit, historically African-American and formerly also Jewish community in the 70s. And whereas the reunion began as William Lester Craig Day in honor of the owner of Craig Funeral Home, whose leadership with the Men's Southside Fellowship Club helped sustain family ties. This event was first held in Michael Street Park, later renamed Babe Denny Park in 1977 to honor Edward Bay Denny, a Southsider, a dedicated city employee, and was the first Black motorcycle police officer in Indianapolis. And whereas through the deep bonds shared by the close-knit families and friends, this community has remained strong thanks to the annual reunion. Echoes of the past still resonate today, as documented in the 2012 publication, The Neighborhood of Saturdays, which chronicles the oral history of African American and Sephardic Jewish residents who lived side by side from the 1910s to the 1960s in the historic and diverse near Southside neighborhood. And whereas the City County Council of Indianapolis, Indiana, recognizes the 50th annual Southside Reunion Picnic, which includes music, laughter, tears of joy, food, activities, guest speakers, and awards, and as more than an occasion of reminiscence and recognition. This annual event, which will continue to be celebrated long into the future, stands as a powerful testament of the community's enduring resilience, and the unity of the face of change. Now, therefore, to be resolved by the City County Council of the City of Indianapolis and of Marion County, Indiana. Section 1, the Indianapolis City County Council recognizes the 50th annual Southside Picnic held on August the 2nd, 2025, representing a community steadfast unity and resilience. Section 2, the council celebrates extraordinary contributions of the residents, past and present, of the historic neighborhood surrounding the Babe Denny Park on the near south side of Indianapolis. Section 3, the mayor is invited to join in the resolution by affixing his signature here too. Section 4, the resolution shall be in full force and effect upon adoption and compliance of IC 36-3-4-14. This special resolution was sponsored by Councilors Joan and Ostley and was passed by the City County Council the third day of November 2025. And it's signed by Vop Ostley, President of City County Council, Yolanda Winfield, Clerk, City County Council, and then Joseph H. Hogsett, the mayor. Thank you.
With the help of the Lilly Endowment and the Parks District, Babe Denny Park is currently undergoing a major renovation. We hope the work will be finished by the time of this year's picnic. Come on. As one of our Jewish elders, Judge Levy, always said about his experiences growing up on the old South Side, two totally different peoples, different colors, different backgrounds, different languages, coexisting beautifully. What I saw was acceptance of all of those differences coupled with friendship, a perfect match. Like most immigrant communities, the Jews were most comfortable with each other, but interacting with our Black neighbors also came easily to us. To this day, I often hear people comment when they come into our synagogue that the people are so warm and friendly and welcoming to everyone. That probably explains why getting along with all of our neighbors, whatever race and religion they were, was never an issue. Neighbors, friends, interacting with one another, no problem. Mr. Craig, whose family owned one of the first Black-owned funeral parlors, told us, "I feel lucky to have grown up the way I did. In this part of town, nobody caused any trouble. We just got along with one another." where we all really came together, in addition to school, was at the Communal Building, which was originally a Jewish settlement house for new immigrants. Later, it became the Concord Center. The Craig Funeral Home was first located on South Senate. Then that property was seized for the building of the highway. So Mr. Craig moved the business to South Capitol. Because of the volume of traffic on South Capitol Street, then became an unmarked entrance onto the highway. So Mr. Craig was forced to move once again. This time he left the South Side altogether, reestablishing the funeral home on the North Side, now at Fairfield and College, which is where you will find it today. As the elders told us when we were doing this research, they were so grateful to have been reunited with all of their old neighbors, both Jewish and African American. As one of them said, it's kept us young and on our feet, and we hope everyone will learn from us how special an experience it was to grow up at that time and in that place we call
For some reflections, and then we'll open up for question and answer.
Okay, so I am Beverle Miller Khan, and I'm the Babe Denny Navigator of the Southside U.S. Colored Troops, where we are dedicated to protecting, preserving, and revitalizing the 6 communities, which are Babe Denny, Hosbrook, Barrington, Bing Creek, and Zunieville and Norwood. And my family currently owns and occupies 3 properties on the 1100 blocks of South Capitol, Illinois, and Senate. And I'm a Miller. And Miss Pete's my mom, Deanne's my daughter. We got my beautiful grandchildren there and my grand Joyce. And I just love this reenactment here. It just helps me to think and know and understand. I knew a lot of the people who wrote all of these oral histories and stories. I'm very passionate about the South Side. I am the one who can say that I said right here in this room one time, and I was in an event the Eunice Trotter gave, and she was talking about another side of the town where the people were putting numbers on the houses that were going to be torn down. And then that was the first time I really realized that I was traumatized by that. I can come home and I can remember seeing a big C and a big W at some point, and I didn't realize that it was traumatic that way until I heard that from Eunice. As the experiences on the South Side is generations to generations, so you heard some of the different reenactments there, from the time of being on the South Side. It was a magical time for us, and we've got a lot of Southside people here, and we're going to hear from some of those in a moment and other questions. But I want to talk about Midway Alley, because that's where you either found a boyfriend or you found a fight, and I'm kind of looking to see, is he out there? Let's see. Is he out there? I don't think he made it. Okay, he didn't make it. Okay. So the other thing that I'm passionate about is the Southside Men's Club. That was one of the pictures there. It's I don't know, I think like 75 men that were on the South Side, and that was just half of them. But those were working class fathers. They all went to work. They all had big families. And Mr. Craig got them together and told them to bring their families back to that little park on the first Saturday in August. And we've been doing that for 50 years. So I just want to go ahead and say that the title of this is We All Just Did Life Together. It wasn't planned, my mom and them just did it. And that's a lot right now that I want to say. I do want to thank the student players here. And thank you guys. Thank you. And before we move on, I do want to ask you, because some of you guys were in the original class, and get your reflections on what were you thinking when you started. What do you think now? Anybody have, and then we'll talk to you in a moment here.
Hmm. When I started, I really appreciate Dr. Hyatt and her energy for the type of research that she was bringing together. But not only that, I think as a non-traditional student at the time, it also meant a lot to see communities come together who have been oppressed and who have been through lots of different types of migration and force. So I'm going to lose some words here, but forced into making decisions that they wouldn't necessarily have made. And so at the time, my son was in college. I was a student as well, a master's student in a program. And I wasn't sure exactly like what type of work that I was wanting to invest in for the second part of my life. But Dr. Hyatt helped with that. I would have gotten an anthropology, a cultural anthropology degree if I had ran into her years earlier. And so at the time, listening to Mrs. Pete and a lot of these folks here that are, some of them are not with us any longer, get so much pleasure and enjoyment and laughter from one another was wonderful to watch. And I was happy that my son was able to see that as well. And since that time, I've become a researcher myself, interested in community as well, African American Black women who have disabilities and the ways in which they navigate and transition life and education. And I've been able to spend a lot of time learning about their voices and about their experiences from them and not necessarily from others who are projecting ideas and ways of knowing onto them. Um, and I've had an opportunity to also be responsible for what these women are sharing with me, and not only Black women with disabilities, but students overall. So I'm a director of the disability office on campus. So at that time, I had no idea that this is what I would be doing 14 years later. But it's a great career, and it allows me to get to know a lot of these folks that's up here with me now, and also to continue to build community because community is important. So we have community in higher ed, and several of us intentionally make sure that we continue to take care of each other and support one another. So again, from starting this project till now, I think I grew up a little. So, yeah.
Thank you. Mercedes.
Well, I never thought that I would stay in Indianapolis, but I really found myself energized by Sue. I was a master's student as well. And really we're here 15 years later, and it's really because of the community, because it was really just a contagious energy and excitement and love. And one of my favorite memories of the project was I had the opportunity and the pleasure to interview some people who hadn't been involved like the first round of interviews, and other people had said, oh, well, you have to go and talk to this person. And at first there was a little bit of trepidation. I got to interview Mr. Robert Moore, and he was just, you could just tell the memories were flooding back and the excitement was flooding back. And I really could see the, the difference that telling his story and reconnecting with this neighborhood made for him. And then he became one of our, involved in the project, and, contributed so much to everything. And so I really just wanted to say that I think that this project was really right up my alley, but it really inspired me to, look at the history and look at what is in your own neighborhood, because there are stories there that haven't been told. And every story is inherently valuable, and every voice is inherently valuable. So that's my takeaway.
Try to get to a couple residents, and if we have time, we'll come back to you guys. So what I want to do is take an opportunity to focus on memories, acknowledgement of displacement, and help connect longtime residents with the newer residents, newer neighbors. So we'll start with the past. How many of you grew up in the Babe Denny neighborhood or have roots there? Thank you guys all for coming here. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And could one or two people give me one or two memories of your mind when it comes to the word of thinking of Babe Denny? Okay, I'm sorry, Bill. And who's getting a share of you or your mama? Sharon.
Okay.
Okay.
Good evening. My name is Sharon Cannon, by the way. And my grandmother, and I remember her telling me the story. She went to the Southside and my mother was 2 years old when they came to Indianapolis and moved on the Southside. And my mom was one of the oldest living relatives. People on the Southside, I believe. She's 94 years old now. And I just always remember, I didn't grow up there, but I always came back there. My family was there. My aunts lived across the street from the Millers, and Miss Pete, my cousin, were good friends. And I always remember Miss Pete at the Southside reunions dancing through the park. She just always, and it was always a good time to reconnect with people. And I remember Miss Paula Hyatt there. She was so nice and kind to people even the staff would interview people. And I don't know if you remember, but even after the picnic, I lost my grandson, and you still commented and could send me words of comfort. And I really appreciate what you're doing for our neighborhood. And I really appreciate Bev, because she's done so much for us.
Thank you.
I know I'm too loud. You say pull my coattail like you do in church.
No, I said thank you for that. So, okay, no, not thank you, but thank you for
I
that.
just want to acknowledge and show you appreciation for how you work so hard to keep our community alive and not let it just be a fly by night. Because I was on my way here today and I said, imagine if the same thing had happened to neighborhoods like Linwood and just the different little neighborhoods. And so we maintain that little closeness by going to the park every year. So that's my.
All righty. Who wants to? Thank you.
My name is Sheree Dabney Mumford, and that's my dad.
Oh, that's her dad. That's right.
Okay, that's my dad and my uncle. I did not grow up on the South Side, but I was born the year that the picnic started. And so my dad was one of the members of the Southside Fellowship Club, and he was the last remaining member before he passed in February a few years ago. But anyway, to the point, you asked about Babe Denny. I thought I was from the South Side my entire life because I knew about Big O. I knew the fight song for Crispus Attucks, the Heidi Heidi Ho. My brother went to Woods, so I felt like I was a Southsider. And so the picnic, my father told me that there were a group of men who came along that were at a funeral, and they were in the parking lot talking at Craig Funeral Home, saying it's a shame shame that they only get together at these sad moments. So a group of them got together and met at the Y and the Southside Fellowship picnic. And my dad was the first one responsible for coming to hang up that legendary sign that lived in our basement for years. And he cooked the hot dogs and the hamburgers. And so to me, Babe Denny is home, even though I'm not from the South Side.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
I'm Miss Pete. Okay. I was born on the South Side in November 14th, 1935. Okay. This was our community. We were family. We didn't know nothing about all this whatever stuff. But the beauty of it is the fact that we've always remained together and the goodness of it. Now, the only thing that caused any division between us is when the highway came through and the banks redlined our district. The banks we've been putting our stamps and all this stuff in for years, they wouldn't give us a dime to do anything with. So what'd we do? We took our money away. But the sad thing about it is, the good thing about it, we didn't let it deteriorate us from coming together every year. I know all these kids in here, everybody knows Miss Pete, okay? That's not my name, but I didn't know that wasn't my name for till I got about 7. My name is Beatrice. Now, does that sound like Pete? Okay. But either way, we had a community that was there for everybody. We never heard about anybody going hungry or anybody having to do anything. We were always together. We had working parents. We had people that did for each other, and they still do. I still own a home on Capitol Avenue. Didn't want to leave it, but I had to. But one thing for sure, we had a community that was united, and it's still united, even though this one lives over here. Cleo Moore and his wife, I knew them when they were kids. We still stayed together. So I don't know how anybody else feels about when things disrupt your neighborhood, but we didn't let it bother us. We still come together. And thank you for letting me talk.
Thank you, Mama. And also, so she touched on the next series, which we're going to talk about more about the impact of displacement. So is there anybody here whose family was on the end that had to move? Or do you guys know the stories, or has somebody told you what it was like when they did have to move? Sherry, you know, did you? Oh, Norma Joe. Okay, there's Norma Joe. Okay, so here we go. This is Norma Joe on the front of the book here. This is her. And what's his name on the back, Sue? What's the guy on the back? The little guy. Yeah. Russell, there's Russell, Norma Joe and Russell. Okay. Yeah.
Yes, we always refer to Miss Norma Jo Moore as our cover girl. And the little boy with her, yeah, Russell, what was his name? Russell something. And people knew him in the community, and I tracked him down to Florida, and we tried to get him to come back because it was my fondest dream to have a picture of him and Miss Norma Jo as, you know, as adults with a bicycle.
Right.
But he wasn't into the idea, so.
Okay, let's hear Miss Norma Joe here and then also her husband Clea, he was up on some of the posters up there too, the pictures.
I grew up on the South Side. I would say I was born on the South Side. So these are some of the experiences that we had, and I really cherish them. And Cleo and I, he came from the South when he was 2 years old. And it seemed like we've been together ever since. I would say that is really for us. When we got married in 1965, they were starting to tear the houses down and they were putting the letters and stuff in. And at that time, Cleo was teaching at Wood High School. So we lived in the neighborhood and we lived in one of the state houses and we paid $37 a month. And we lived in that house for about a year and then we moved farther east. But I do treasure the South Side. Yeah. And one thing, let me say, my grandparents owned their house on Capitol. We never had outdoor toilet. And we always had a telephone. And we probably was one of the first ones to get a television. So so I do treasure the South Side. We both do. And we still go to church out there.
Okay, so we've got some families that were displaced, but the Floyd family is still on that side of the community that where the houses were displaced. Ross, Herb, or however Sherry calls you. And then we got Dion over here too. Floyd, yeah, if you want to say something, kind of what it felt like, because your family was down there where.
So I actually just left there because my dad wanted Superos on my way here. So that ain't changed. But, and I was reflecting back, and I knew I was coming here about, even as a kid, all the people that we knew. And one of my fondest memories of the South Side is going to Campbell's grocery store and going to get those orange peanuts from my grandfather. If y'all knew him, he was a talker. And so am I. But as a little kid, when you really can't count money, but you just go up to the counter and you tell them what you want and you just put your money on the counter. And just understanding now how that diverse neighborhood was so relevant, because we still haven't gotten back to those type of neighborhoods today. So that's my memory.
Thank you. Does anybody else want to talk about displacement? Okay, we got Heidi back there. Hi. Go ahead. She's bringing the mic to you.
I'm right in front of
Well, first of all, thank you for doing this and
You're welcome.
keeping this up. I'm Brian Shapiro.
Yeah.
Kind of one of the last of the Mohegans, and obviously want to thank Susan Hyatt for everything that she's done for this innovative work that has kept us together. But I guess I want to turn to the future.
Yes, that was next. Thank you.
And most of you have probably seen the Rethink 6570.
I have it right here.
Where there's a desire to put the interstate below ground, below grade, and put caps on top of it, which they've done in other cities. And the caps could be parks, open space. It would, it would somewhat bring back the neighborhood. But in our great thought of doing this, one of my classmates from law school who is heading it up along with Charlie, is recently the portion that kind of goes through where the old South Side, where my ancestors had property, great uncle Izzy and lost houses, and to the African American population that lost houses. They've decided not to do it there when you look at the fine print. And I have gone to various public meetings and brought this up. And I kind of get shushed. No, Brian, don't bring this up because they may kill the whole project. Well, I guess that our job isn't done and that we need to talk to the elected officials, congressmen, Andre and Jefferson, both of them are in favor of this, but we don't need it to stop where it is. And, you know, let's be real. I have to be careful in choosing my words, but if not, we're going to get left out again. So hopefully, you know, we can have chapter 2.0 of Susan's book where we redevelop this. I don't know whether Susan and I will be around long enough to see this, but it is a real possibility. But I don't want, you know, Babe Denny, the old Southside, Stadium Village, whatever we want to call the area, to get kicked out again.
Right, thank you. So here's the Rethink 6570 plan that's been in our community. And I don't know if you passed the mic to somebody else, but for new stuff, hot off the press, this is the okay. Downtown West Innovation Development District. There is a 50-year plan that is being, I'm just gonna say, imposed by this Indy Chamber, Eli Lilly's, a bunch of companies and people with the money over in our community. I got money, I got $12. They won't take it because I'm thinking, let me put my $12 in to have a say. But we all need to know, to understand, to listen. Right here's Babe Denny Park. I mean, here's the Lucas Oil Stadium. Right here's our community. And they've got all these little white buildings here. So I've been to a couple meetings trying to understand. They had a young professionals meeting. I went to it and I'm like, and the lady says something like, well, I said, who do I need to tell about this? She said, oh, don't tell anybody. I said, lady, look, I'm going to tell everybody. So in any way, so I don't know a lot about what's going on here, but there is a 50-year plan for that side of the, starting at 16th and where the hospitals are, going all the way down to Eli Lilly's and what, the Eli Lilly on Raymond Street. And what they bought up, they said, oh, we got the life sciences, we got the sports, and we got all these assets. I said, but I'm an asset and so is my neighborhood. So you guys need to just back it up. So that's where we're at with that. So I think we're almost getting at time, but I just want to hear if there's a couple of the other guests that may have questions here for some of the Southside folks. And we all want to thank you guys all for coming. And as we say, you know, we just all did life together. That's just all we knew. Okay, we got a question. She's got the mic there.
Active advocates.
Well, I've got a business card, but on the, Dr. Hyatt, what's on your, the program? So I am, I do have an email, and it's, I'll give you this one. It's Babe Denny at Southside USCT.org. So that would be a place to start. And we're just starting to begin to put this together. We don't have an approach. I did go to the old Southside neighborhood meeting last night, brought it up to them. Seems like we might do some kind of committee. We also joined the Stadium Village Business Association because their name is in this report. And when I showed it to them, they were just as stunned as we were. So we're just trying to get ahead of this to begin to understand, you know, where this might take us, because they're saying it's a 50-year plan and we need to be a part of it. And it's economic development. We've got businesses there, even on the south side. But I want to show you guys on the back of my shirt. These are the old institutions that were on the south side. So that's how we did it last time, you know, for the institutions there. That was great. But now we do have new events there. We got the cut galleries new. We've got a Passo's marker that's up there right by Shapiro's. We've got, and this is for Lisa Barnes. If she says, meet me at the fire hydrant, y'all, that's on Kenwood, okay? Right, I'm telling you, that's in front of Perry Mo's and them house. We also have the Meridian Liquor, so we do have some new businesses and everything out there. We've got Parking's a Nightmare, so I'm just gonna tell y'all that. We got Rides on Meridian, Legal School Prep, so there is a school inside of our high school. So we're wrapping it up here. I just want to say thank you. This is my first time doing something like this. Thank you guys for listening. Thanks for the players. Thanks for my mom. We got one more question here. And just one more question. Sorry. So the picnic is the first Saturday in August. And it's generally in Babe Denny Park. However, with our renovations, I got an email from Chad today, and he's saying for us to plan to move it over to Kelly Park. So we generally start setting up like 9 in the morning, and we're just there till probably the next morning because we clean up. I mean, we clean up and we do all that, but if you got my email, just try to follow me there. So that's where we're at. And I'm going to let Miss Sophia wrap this up. Thank you, everybody. My brains.
Your time to shine.
Well, this was really interesting. And those of you who know about Freetown Village and how we like to do things a little bit different, you all really did it differently. I enjoyed hearing the stories, the oral histories, the dramatic reading, first person interpretation, all that kind of stuff. It brings history to life. And once you connect with that information, it stays with you. It's not a date and a place and a name that you've memorized, but you connect with the meaning, the stories, the emotions. It comes to life. So we have to give these people a rousing applause and thanking them for bringing this information to us. And you see that little thing up there? That's what we call a QR code. And you can just aim your phone up there. And when the little thing comes up, click on it, complete the questionnaire. It's short, but it really does help us as we collect information about how you like the program, thoughts about it. Help us out with that information. Doesn't cost you a dime. And check out some of the other Freetown Village events. Our summer camp continues until July 17th, so we still have a few slots, I think, for our campers to enroll in our summer camp. And our next conversations will be on July 16th. Brian Glover, who will talk about Roberts Settlement that's in Hamilton County. And don't forget to make your tax deductible contribution to Freetown Village Incorporated. We certainly would appreciate it. And have a safe and enjoyable evening. We hope to see you again next month or some of the other Freetown Village programs and events. Thank you all.